Hi readers, Chris here. Today I'm going to be doing my September read up and my October TBR. I had a great month in September. I read 7 books and for the most part I really enjoyed every single one of them. So ranking them in any sort of order was really difficult, but I'm going to give it a try. So I'm going to jump in with my 7th favorite book of the month, and that is going to be The Cursed Clones by Adam Hoolse, or Hoolsey. I'm sorry, Adam, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. If you remember from a previous video, I actually won a copy of this book. It was this book, and then there's a sequel from Steve Talks Books from his channel. I was super happy to win that giveaway, super happy to get these books. I am starting to really get more into like independent authors and independent books, so I think that's really cool. So this is a science fiction book. It's like this underground military compound where they're doing illegal experiments and they're creating some monsters. If you're into sci-fi and like military action, I think this is probably be a good book for you. For me, it wasn't exactly something that I could connect with. I think mostly because of like the military stuff, military action and soldiers and all that stuff. It's just not something that I connect with personally, but if you're in the military or maybe you know someone in the military, maybe you would connect with it. So it's still, it's not a bad book, but I had to put something at the bottom, so I chose this one. My 6th favorite book of September is going to be The One by Kiera Cass. This is the 3rd book in the selection series, and it kind of ends a trilogy. I know there are more books in the selection, but the other books I think start with like new characters and a new setting. So for all intents and purposes, this book is like the final of the first trilogy. I really enjoyed this book. I think it's a good ending to that trilogy. I will say, and I talked about this a little bit over on Instagram, a couple of the characters were a bit annoying in this book. Like, they have one of those will they, won't they romances, but it's been going on since book 1, the will they, won't they. So by the time you get to book 3, it's like, okay, come on already. Like, let's just move past that. Let's just move past that. So again, I still enjoyed this book. I think it's a great ending to the selection series. Characters were a little bit annoying, so I actually think that book 2, which was called The Elite, I think book 2 is probably my favorite book in this series, but The One was still a decent read and a decent ending to this series. My 5th favorite book for the month is going to be Sweet and Bitter Magic by Adrienne Tooley. Sweet and Bitter Magic is about 2 witches. One witch has been cursed to like never love again because she did something bad in her past, and the other witch is something that's called a source. So she's someone that is like very powerful, someone that other witches use to like enhance their magic, but she's kind of been in hiding for all her life. She has not gone through any training. She's hidden the fact that she is a source. So all of a sudden, there's this dark magic that's kind of taken over the land. Something happens to the source's father. She goes to the witch who's been cursed, and says, hey, I need you to help me. I need you to help me get rid of this dark magic and save my father. So what happens is like an adventure, the two get to know each other, etc., etc., etc. I think this book is really cute, really fun. Some of you know I've had some issues with YA fantasy recently, and I think this is one of the better ones I've read, one of the better ones. I did still have some issues with it. Mostly, I think the characters are a bit inconsistent. For example, the one girl who is the source that's kind of been in hiding, she is often described as someone who's kind of like timid and shy, but then she's also described as someone who's like spunky and like doesn't back down, and I don't know. They should have just gone with one or the other. I feel like they go back and forth a lot. Oh, she's too shy, she doesn't know anything, but also she's like super spunky and asks all these questions and has this inner courage. Like, it was just a bit uneven for me, a bit uneven. And then there's the witch who was cursed to not be able to feel love. I feel like the book, again, was a bit uneven with that. It was a bit uneven on, like, what she could actually feel versus what she couldn't. Like, there's a scene where they're looking at a sunset, and because she makes a comment that, like, because of this curse, she can't appreciate the sunset. And it's like, it's, I don't know, unless you're like in love with sunsets, I think you could appreciate a sunset even if you can't feel love. I don't know. So things like that were just a bit uneven. But overall, I think the actual story itself was fun. There's actually a twist in the middle, which really increased my enjoyment of this book. And this is why I don't DNF, because halfway through, it got so much better. And I don't know if I'll have a chance to show this off when I review it, so I will do this now. But yes, purple sprayed edges. Oh my god, so fantastic. Purple is my favorite color, so for that reason alone, I really like this book. I don't think I'll ever get rid of it. My fourth favorite book of September is a middle grade fantasy series that I started reading, which is Magic by Angie Sage. And it's hard to see this cover in the lighting, but this is part of a series that's called Septimus Heap, and book 1 is Magic. So in this book, we have this family called the Heap family, and the Heap family has just had their 7th child, their 7th son. But when this 7th son is born, he allegedly passes away. So he passes away, the family is really upset, but then the father, Silas, is coming home one night, and again, this is all in like the first chapter, this is just the setup, no spoilers. He finds a baby in the snow, like a baby that's been abandoned, and he's like, hey, we just lost our baby, I'm gonna take this baby home. This baby turns out to be someone super important, someone that they didn't know who she was when they picked her up, and all of a sudden, all of these people are trying to kill this poor baby that they found. So it is this whole adventure of protecting this baby, trying to find out what really happened to the 7th son, a dark wizard taking over. Like, there is a lot in here. There's a lot in here. And I think it's actually quite a chunky book for like a middle grade book. It's over 500 pages, which is a lot, especially for middle grade. But I really enjoyed it. I think it's super cute. I think it's really fun, and I can't wait to see where the rest of the series goes. So Magic by Angie Sage is a great middle grade fantasy. My top 3 were really hard to put in order because I really did love all of them. I really do love all of them. But I had to pick one, so number 3 for September is going to be The Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty. This is the 3rd and final book in the Davabad series, the Davabad trilogy. I started reading this series in 2021, so City of Brass, Kingdom of Copper, and then Empire of Gold. Again, another super chunky book, but this series is like, it's amazing. If you are a fan of fantasy and you like fantasy that's like influenced by other cultures, like, this is an amazing series to check out. It's all based on Middle Eastern mythology, like Egyptian folklore. It is so cool. I will say that in book 1, it is a little bit difficult to like figure out. There's a lot of warring factions in this book, so it's a little bit almost like Game of Thrones, where you have the Devas, you have the Ifrit, you have Jinn, you have Shafit, who are part Jinn but part human. Like, there is a lot, but luckily this book includes a glossary which helps make things easier. This final book is a fantastic wrap-up to the series. It answers all the questions that have been going on. It satisfies like all the character arcs. Everyone has a complete arc. Everything is resolved. Like, it is a fantastic wrap up to the series. It's super great. It's super fun. The only reason that this book is number 3 is because the other 2 books have a bit of recency bias. Like, they're brand new to me and this series is not, but don't let that fool you. It's still a fantastic book and a fantastic series. My second favorite book for September is really tied with number 1, but that is going to be Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Ninth House. Wow. Wow, this book is nuts. This book puts the dark in dark academia, because wow, does it get dark. So Ninth House is about a young girl. Her name is Alex Stern, and she has this ability where she can see ghosts. So she sees ghosts, and because she has this ability, she is recruited by someone at Yale, yes, Yale University, New Haven, to join their society. So Yale has all these secret societies. If you've ever read any book or seen any movie about like secret societies at a university, that is what is in this book. But Alex gets recruited by this house called Leith House. And Leith House is basically supposed to like oversee all the other houses and make sure that they stay in line, that they don't get out of hand, and that they use their magic responsibly. But lo and behold, there is a girl that is murdered, and everyone says that it doesn't have anything to do with the societies, like she was just a nobody, blah, 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 blah. But something in Alex just says, you know, that's not right. And as she goes deeper into trying to solve this murder, things just get crazier and crazier and crazier. Now, like I said, this book gets dark. It gets dark. This is an adult book, and it is very adult. There is sex in here, sexual abuse, drugs, like, it gets dark. But honestly, I loved it. I loved it. I love when fantasy goes dark and, like, just goes for it hard. And this book does. I can totally understand why some people may not like this book, because Leigh Bardugo is mostly known for her YA fantasy, and this is not YA. This is not YA. This is hard adult. So if you're used to that, it's probably very shocking. But because I am used to reading a lot of adult stuff, like, it was not as shocking to me. So I really love Ninth House. The sequel is coming out next year. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to find out what happens next. And finally, that brings me to my number 1 favorite book of September, and that was going to be Geralds Game by Stephen King. Oh boy, oh boy. I cannot wait to do my review on this book because, wow, I absolutely loved it. I know I have said in the past that Misery is my favorite Stephen King book. This is probably a close second. It is very similar where, like, Misery pretty much takes place in one location, so does this book. So the setup of this book is we have a woman. She has gone to a summer cabin with her husband, Gerald. And at this cabin, her and Gerald are basically playing a sexy game where she gets handcuffed to the bed and, you know, they have kinky sex. But she decides this time around that she is not into this. She doesn't want to do this. But Gerald can't get the, he thinks that she's playing, that she's play acting. So even though she's saying no and she's not consenting to this, he thinks that, like, oh, you're just playing hard to get, or you're just in a character. I don't want to say what happens next, even though it's right in the beginning of the book. But what happens is this, like, woman's descent into her past, which has been very traumatic, her present, which is also traumatic, and, like, at its core, it's about the horrors of, like, being a woman and the things that women have to deal with on, like, the daily. I love books that, like, work on multiple levels and have multiple meanings, and this book actually does. This entire 400-page book is about a woman handcuffed to a bed. That's it. And man, it is so good. It is so, so, so good. Definitely trigger warnings in here because there is, again, abuse. There's a lot of abuse in here and a lot of, horror in here. But that's what I love about Stephen King. He can explore the horror of like everyday life, the horror of things that women have to go through, and make it a fantastic story. So Gerald's Game, definitely one of the best King books I've ever read, and I really loved it. Those are all the books that I read in September. Like I said, a super great reading month, so I hope that October will be just as good. So now I'm going to share my October TBR, starting with my reader recommendation of the month, which is The Blue Sword by Robin McKinney. This was recommended to me by Seajar. Seajar, I'm sorry I don't know your real name, but I will just say Seajar, thank you so much for always liking, commenting my videos, and thank you for recommending this to me. I am only 2 chapters in, and I think it's got a really super interesting setup, so I can't wait to see where this one goes. Next up, I'm continuing my Stephen King journey, of course, and this month's book is going to be Dolores Claiborne. Dolores Claiborne. I know absolutely nothing about this one, so I'm going in completely blind, and I've already read 1 chapter. I shouldn't say that. I've already read the first couple of pages. There's no chapters in this book. It's just one long story for like 300 pages. That's really interesting. Because I'm a multiple book reader, I usually read like chapter, or maybe a couple chapters, but there's no chapters in this book, so I'm just gonna have to figure it out as I go along, I guess. Next up, for my adult fantasy for October, I am continuing the Winter Night trilogy with The Girl in the Tower. Super excited about this one. I absolutely loved The Bear and the Nightingale, and can't wait to see where this story goes in The Girl in the Tower. There's one more book after this, so hopefully I can finish the series before the end of the year. Next up, for my random book of the month, my rando as I call it, I decided to go for something like completely out of the box for me. I picked this book up at like a library sale. It was either last year or it might have been the year before, and it is Ruth Ware, The Turn of the Key. This is like a mystery thriller, I think, which is not something that I typically read, but I figured, hey, it's October, it's spooky season, a murder mystery thriller type book is perfect for this time of year, so why not give this one a try? We'll see how I like it, and yeah, excited for that one. Next up, I have my YA fantasy. Now, since I've finished that kind of first trilogy of the selection, I do have some other books, but I am taking a break to return to Cassandra Clare with Chain of Iron. This is the second book in the Last Hours series, and I believe book 3 is coming out early in 2023, so I want to make sure that I am completely caught up on the series for when the next book comes out. I read the first one over the summer. This is a chunker. This is my chunky book for the month. My only chunky book. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. This next one is a little bit chunky too, but this is my chunkiest book of the month, so hopefully I can get through all of it. Next up, for my middle grade book, I am continuing with the Septimus Heap series, and this second book is called Flight. And yes, this is the other one that is kind of chunky. Not as chunky as the last one, but, still a bit chunky, This is the second book in the Septimus Heap. I have no idea what happens. I have no idea where this series goes. There's a lot that happened in that first book, Magic, so there are so many different directions the story could go in. I'm really interested to see which direction it takes and what happens to all of these characters, because there's a lot of stuff. So hopefully it tells a cohesive story and is not all over the place. And last but not least, I have my book box book for the month, and my pick this month is Lake's Edge by Lyndall Clipstone, Wow, that is a cool name, Lyndall Clipstone. This book came in a Owl Crate book box, I believe, last year, and I've been waiting for the right month to read it, and I think it is very atmospheric and spooky and perfect for October. And can I just say, like, how cool is this cover? That is not a dust jacket. This is the actual cover of the book. Super, super, super cool. The sequel to this book just came out in September. I actually ordered the sequel special edition from Owl Crate because the sequel is the same. It's got a special hardcover that I believe is purple. You know how I feel about purple. Now, even though the book came out on September 27th, I believe, they have not shipped the books yet. They're supposed to ship out in mid-October. Hopefully it's worth the wait, and hopefully I finish this book before the sequel comes so that I can start it right away. That is all for my September wrap up and my October TBR. I got a little sleeping snowball here, so if you made it to the end of the video, you are rewarded with a snowball. Are you so tired? Are you so tired, Snowball? Aw, who's a good baby? Who's a good baby? If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, please subscribe to my channel for more bookish stuff coming your way soon. All right, everyone, happy reading. Can you say bye, Snowball? Can you say bye? Oh, there's a Jack. There's a Jack. Come here, Jack. Can you say bye-bye, Jack?